welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'm going to do a video. Should you buy a BMW 335i with an N54 or an N55? When I went to buy this car, you know, I've owned one before, but I've owned it years ago. Right now it's I have a 2009 LCI 335i. The car now is 13 years old. So I was thinking, you know, I'm watching all these videos on YouTube. People are saying how unreliable the car is, the misfires, and getting codes and oil leaks, high pressure fuel pumps, water pumps blow. Do I really want to have that type of headache? Is that a headache that I need? Is this car going to be reliable? You know, I live in a climate in Las Vegas. It's 110, 115 degrees. Is this car going to be okay? So I'm going to try to answer those questions the best I can today. So I was just watching a video this afternoon from Slow Speed. He has a YouTube channel on BMWs, and that made me think of this video because he was driving his 335i. He's doing a build on his E90. It was crashed in the back. He's doing some work to it, and he was saying how much he loves this car. You know, man, he said, I love this 335i. You know, there's something about it. There's just something about this car that makes you love it. And this is coming from someone who has a G82 M4, brand new. He could drive both, but he loves his E90 generation car. And one of the main reasons why, I'm pretty sure, is just the overall feel of the car. You know, it gives you that overall feel of driving. It has doesn't have electronic steering. You know, it has an old steering rack. You feel everything on the road. If there's a little pebble on the road, you know, you kind of feel it. That might be good for some people, it might be bad for some people, but I like to be in control of the car when I drive it. Also, the power behind this car. If you're watching videos on a N54, you know the potential that this car has. You know, I mean, this car is like one of the most tunable motors. They call it the, you know, the European 2JZ. You know, for a small amount of money, you can make the car super fast. As of right now, I'm running an MHD Stage 2 Plus tune on the car. Full bolt-on, catless downpipes, upgraded fuel pump, typically running like an E40 blend. And once you get the car sorted out, the car runs good. Car runs real good. You know, I mean, you probably heard this before. You know, this car, you got to do maintenance before the mods. You have to get all the maintenance done before you add all the horsepower to it. You just, I know it's tempting. You know, I know it's tempting to go out and just, you could spend about $1,500. You can make the car from stock 300 horsepower. You go full bolt on, now all of a sudden the car's like 425, 430 to the wheels. You know, and you worry about the maintenance later. You have to do it opposite. Maintenance before mods in this car. Vehicle virals. You know, he's always talking about it on YouTube. Maintenance before mods. You know, and if you do that, you know, you're going to have a better ownership experience from the car. For sure. You know, the problem is, you hear it a lot that the car is unreliable. It's not the car that's unreliable. The motor is very reliable. The parts around the car, around the motor, are reliable. You know, the water pumps, high pressure fuel pumps, you know, the cables and wires, you know, they're plastic or rubber. You know, that's the type of stuff that doesn't hold up, especially in, you know, warm climates like Las Vegas, Nevada. So you want to do the maintenance. You know, a lot of times people, like younger kids, they get the car, they don't have the money for the maintenance, but they definitely do all the mods, and they beat the car to death. Then you get a car like mine with 135,000 miles on the odometer, and all of a sudden you can't believe it doesn't run well. You know, this car's it's fairly affordable. You could buy one of these, typically an automatic, for $6,000 or $7,000. The manual's a little bit more, but now you could buy the car for $6,000, put $1,500 into it, and all of a sudden you're over 400 wheel horsepower. Another $1,500, you could buy an eBay turbo. You know, change it, upgrade the fuel pump again, and maybe you're doing close to 600 horsepower. You know, I mean, 600 horsepower is, if the maintenance isn't done, it's going to destroy the car. Even though the motor could handle it. You know, the motor could handle 600 horsepower, but it's a lot for any motor. You know, especially these cars are getting a little bit older now, and they're also getting up there in the mileage and the years and, you know, wear and tear on the car. So, but truthfully, my ownership experience of the car, I'm definitely happy I got it. I would recommend it. You know, if you're willing to do a little bit of work yourself, the ownership experience won't be that bad. You know, a BMW, changing simple parts on the car, like, for example, let's say you have to replace the valve cover gasket. If you bring it to a mechanic, it might be $800, $1,000, $1,200, depending on the market you're in. You could buy the parts online for under $150 and do it yourself in a couple hours. You know, it's what you're willing to do and what you're willing to spend. So those are the things that I would think about and take into consideration when you get the car. You know, who was the previous owner, pull a Carfax, check the service records. You know, you might not want one that was abused. I also, I typically always buy cars with a manual transmission. I like to feel the car. I like being in control, rolling through the gears. So, I mean, BMWs, they have a decent trend. You know, they're a little floppy, but when you put the car in gear, you know it's in gear. Another thing about this car, a pro, for maybe why you should buy one, is the looks. This car is 13 years old. I still think the car looks amazing. It's like, every time I see it still, I'm like, oh man, I walk up to the car and say, oh man, I love that car. It's a beautiful car. Inside and outside, it's a nice car. You know? So the looks, the car definitely aged well. And the interior of the car, it has a nice interior. You know, basically you can make this car like a race car, and you could be driving around in a luxurious BMW. I mean, the seats are nice. The seats are durable. You know, I have black, but the seats held up. They look like they're brand new still. You know, the gauge cluster. I swapped out the gauge cluster. I put this one in. Changed the orange lights to white ones with a purple background. A little bit of red accent on it. You know, it looks, the car looks good. I put in an Android stereo to modernize it a little bit. You know, the car has Netflix, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You could pull up your MHD on the screen. So I modernized the car. The thing was just a few $100s. You know, you can make the car nice for a few $100s and have a nice ownership experience with it. That's for sure. Another thing about the car is it sounds very good. Right out of the factory, the car sounds good. Like, you could do a resonator delete, muffler delete, and the car will sound pretty good. It's not going to be too droney, too tinny. You know, you don't get it sounds nice. Don't get me wrong. If you put an exhaust on, it's going to definitely sound better. But if you remove the cats, muffler, and resonator delete, the car's going to sound good. You know, I know a lot of people like on the N55s, they're not too crazy about the sound. S55s, not too crazy about the sound. This car could sound good. You know, and hey, a little gas. The car's not rattling. Doesn't sound like a tin can. Bad road to be giving gas on. Close the windows again. Now, some of the reasons why maybe you shouldn't buy this car. You know, the thing about it is, you can get into it, and people think, oh man, you can get this $335,000, $6,000, $7,000, like I was saying before. But when you buy a cheap BMW, it always winds up costing you more in the end. It does. It does. I've owned a few BMWs. I try to get in cheap ones, and it was a nightmare sometimes. You know, if you're in college, you're working like a minimum wage job maybe, you're a little bit tight on money, and you know you can afford the $6,000, but deep down you know if that car breaks and you got to come up with $1,500, $2,000, you know, let's say your injectors blow, all of a sudden you need index 12 injectors, you might have to come up with $1,500. You know, if that's not something you're willing to do, it might not be the car for you, because this is the type of thing I've seen it happen. Thank God. I don't want to knock on jinx myself, but this is the type of car where, you know, you could go out there and fix something for $1,500. Car runs great for a day. All of a sudden, you got another misfire. You go through all the coil packs, all the spark plugs, all the injectors, and all of a sudden, you know, you go through. It could be a leak somewhere. I mean, there's a lot to these cars, you know, and if you're not, like I said before, if you're not mechanically inclined, it might not be the best thing. You know, I'm not mechanically inclined, but a lot of my friends are, so I have a little bit of an edge on that. Also, the car is rear-wheel drive with a lot of power. If you're a newer driver, I wouldn't recommend this as your first car. I'd get a little bit of time under your belt first. You know, it's too tempting, the car. It's too tempting. Everyone wants to, like, for some reason, Mustangs, Chargers, you know, everyone wants to pull next to you, and they want to try to mess with the car and give it gas. So if you're a new driver, you don't want to be doing something like that. You don't want to lose your license. You know, you want to make sure you're safe. You know, when I was 17, 18 years old, like, I remember when I didn't even have a fast car. If I saw someone going fast, I had to prove a point to myself, like, you know, I just couldn't help myself. Nowadays, it's like, don't get me wrong, I want to win the race, but I don't have to fly around to prove something. You know, it's just, yeah. So, I think that sums it up. It sounds like I'm rambling now. You know, I wanted to answer these questions because this is something that I went through when I was thinking about buying the car. And I wanted to be as transparent as I possibly could and tell you how I feel about it. You know, I would say buy it. I bought two. I love BMWs, and I'm enjoying the ownership experience. I love the BMW community. You know, it's like it's kind of like my lifestyle. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'm losing my voice a little bit. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up underneath the video. Subscribe for more content. I'm going to be putting out 2-3 videos a week at least. And I'll see you next time.